Then in part 2, you need to recommend the optimal production plan for the candy division. So in other words, you need to recommend how many units of each product they should produce so that profits are maximized. Now we know that there are only 400,000 kilograms of milk chocolate available. And in part 1, we ranked the 3 products. Giggles was ranked number 1 because it had the highest contribution per kilogram of milk chocolate. So they should first use the milk chocolate that's available to produce Giggles. So how much milk chocolate do we need in order to make all of the Giggles units? And we have already performed this calculation. We know that the annual demand for Giggles is 280,000 units, and they need 0.7 kilograms per unit. So in order to make 280,000 units, they need 196,000 kilograms of milk chocolate. So that then leaves 204,000 kilograms for the production of the next best product. And the next best product was Brighties. That was ranked number 2. And we know that the annual demand for Brighties is 350,000 units, and they need 0.8 kilograms of milk chocolate per unit. So in total, they need 280,000 kilograms of milk chocolate. So you can see we've calculated that there are only 204,000 kilograms remaining. So they will not be able to make all of the Brighties units that they would like to make. So we are going to have to work backwards. With the material that's available, how many units can they make? We know that they need 0.8 kilograms of milk chocolate per unit. So if there are 204,000 kilograms available and 0.8 kilograms are required per unit, they will be able to manufacture 255,000 units of Brighties. And then after that, there won't be any milk chocolate remaining, and that's obviously why we concluded in part 1 that the chocolate chips need to be purchased from the external supplier. All right, so let's summarize this. Make sure that you actually answer the required. What is the optimal production plan? How many units of each product should they produce? For Giggles, they are going to produce everything. So that is 280,000 units. And for Brighties, they can produce 255,000 units. All right, so that then answers part 2. Then in part 3, discuss and calculate the external purchase price of chocolate chips at which your advice in part H1 will change. All right, so what was our advice in part H1? We concluded that the chocolate chips should be purchased from the external supplier. And remember, this conclusion was based on the ranking and the calculations that we performed above. So what needs to change over here so that our advice changes, so that we no longer recommend that they should be purchasing the chocolate chips from the external supplier, but instead the chocolate chips should be manufactured internally? We know from our calculation in part 2 that after the production of Giggles, there's 204,000 kilograms of milk chocolate remaining. How many kilograms of milk chocolate do we need to produce chocolate chips? We need 200,000 kilograms. So after the production of Giggles, there's enough milk chocolate available to produce chocolate chips. However, that milk chocolate was not used for chocolate chips, it was used for Brighties because Brighties was ranked second. So if we want that milk chocolate to be used for chocolate chips, then instead chocolate chips need to be ranked second and Brighties need to be ranked third. So in other words, the chocolate chips need to replace the Brighties and they need to be ranked second. So in order to be ranked second, the saving per kilogram of milk chocolate needs to be slightly better than the contribution per kilogram of milk chocolate for Brighties. So this can't be 47 Rand. That needs to increase to 81 Rand and 89 cents. And then you can see chocolate chips would be ranked second because it's slightly better than Brighties, and Brighties would be ranked third. And if this is the case, we would then recommend that the chocolate chips are rather manufactured internally instead of being purchased from the external supplier. So make sure that you answer the required. You need to discuss and calculate the external purchase price of chocolate chips at which your advice in part H1 will change. We know that if the chocolate chips are manufactured internally, it's going to cost the company 155 Rand per kilogram of chocolate chips. So that's in our calculation over here just below. Now, we've changed this. This is no longer 47 Rand per kilogram because we are trying to calculate the external purchase price where our advice will change. So we said this needs to change to 81 Rand and 89 cents per kilogram. So if that changes to 81 Rand and 89 cents per kilogram, then your external purchase price over here is going to increase to 236 Rand and 89 cents per kilogram. So just make sure that you're happy with this logic. If it costs the company 155 Rand per kilogram to manufacture the chocolate chips internally, and if it costs them 236 Rand and 89 cents to buy the chocolate chips from the external supplier, then they will save 81 Rand and 89 cents per kilogram if the chocolate chips are manufactured internally. And then chocolate chips will be ranked number 2 and our advice will change. We will then recommend that the chocolate chips are manufactured internally because they outrank Brighties. So if the external purchase price increases to 236 Rand and 89 cents or higher, because obviously if it's higher then the saving over here would be even more. So if it increases to 236 Rand and 89 cents or higher, then our advice in part H1 would change and we would recommend that the chocolate chips are manufactured internally. Then lastly, in part 4, discuss 3 non-financial factors. So you can't discuss costs, you can only discuss non-financial or qualitative factors that Sweet Treats should consider before deciding whether or not to manufacture the chocolate chips internally. Alright, so one of the things that they'll need to consider is the impact on the quality of the chocolate chips. Remember guys, the chocolate chips are used in the production of chocolate chip cookies. So we either want the quality to be the same or we want the quality to be better. We don't want the chocolate chips to be a worse quality if they are manufactured internally, because then obviously that could cause reputational damage because of the fact that those chocolate chips are being used in the production of the chocolate chip cookies. They should consider the impact on delivery time. And if the chocolate chips are manufactured internally by the candy division, then delivery time should reduce because we know that both of the divisions are situated on the same premises in Germiston, Gauteng. They should consider the impact on relationships with customers. If they decide to manufacture the chocolate chips internally, because of the fact that milk chocolate is a scarce resource, they won't be able to make all of the brighties and giggles that they would like to make. So that could obviously have a negative impact on customer relationships if the customers can't buy all of the brighties and giggles that they would like to buy. Then that is already 3 factors over there, but there's one more that you could also discuss over here, and that is the impact on supplier relationships. And this is particularly important where the supplier provides Sweet Treats with other products other than the chocolate chips. Because if Sweet Treats now starts manufacturing those chocolate chips internally, they will be effectively competing with that supplier. So they will need to consider the impact that that will have on the relationship with the supplier. All right, guys, so that then answers part H of the required, and that brings us to the end of this question. Thank you very much.